Owura Kojo Alan Kyerematen abeto dwa sɛ wakohyia opanyini ana omampanyini dada Kufuor wankyea ne nsɛm ɛwɔ ayie bi ase. Video no atrendi yi pa na video yi a etrendi yi ne nkɔfo kyerɛ sɛ tama ye beto aba no de Kufuor ɛka ye ne wɔn so ka ye no ne da so hyɛ ne mu ɛno nti na okohyia omampanyini Kufuor a wankɔkyea no. Enti video no beto odwa nam sɛ ɛne ɛba ne sade ase na nka ɛha adwene yi pa. Itimi yamaji se mecheki ehunu ade kropotia na ekoso eno ana makopie minua Biscout Media page so eno ade mu nkyiremu aba asem no se ente saa enye se wakohia no eno wanchia no na emumu no Biscout be kyiremu kra ma yehunu se na eye bi ase na asante amammere mu no se okochia na se ohene foforo bi ba ne ade a amelu nkyiremu ni nyina hodada eti video no hu se ye bra panyini Hobbs na doye apustu ewo ni page so a wo chese nkofo e de ye propaganda e de tia ne boss a eye Alan Kojo Kyerematen na asem no ente saa so ati ase nti yenkotie Biscuit nkyiremu ode ba ye fa saa asem we hu a wo mo kyere se Alan Kyerematen akohyia Kufuor ewo ayi anase program bi ase na wa ginani ama Kufuor wankyea ni nsem na so ne wa asem no emu nkyiremu no yenkoti
adenti na wo hu na wan kwankɔkyea no abusua odinkan ɛkyea no nemum asante amamre mu no sa wokyea nipa ɛwɔ bedwaase a wokyea wo bi ɛwɔ bedwaase a yensa nkɔkyea ne biem ɛno nti ana Alan sorry ye no ɔkɔ straight to ɛyɛ apegyahene hɔ ɛkɔkyea apegyahene etinu na eni kwan sɛ ɔsa akɔkyea efri ɛyɛ ɔmampanyin dada Kufuor so biem because odinkan akyea no Ebusia asemoba aya no nyantobo ase ewom se omampanyin dada Kufuor be kire na adwene Alan ani anje ho anase ne bo anjo so ono so ba bonten ebe keka de wo se wo keka ba eno nche so mo ya atamfo eye politics eno nche se wanya omampanyin dada Kufuor tirimuka anase amanase pobi aba be hye a eno nti wahia ne bedwam kase a ni petitru empanifo ahodo ewo ase no Alan a woni mamamre ti amamre Alan a yetete no ebetima hwenyame anim atwam abra wanche omampanyin dada Kufuor Alan enya akwada Alan enye saade no etimesre mo circulate saa video we mo asebesebi mo keka nsem ahodo tanehye eye Alan image munjai enye saa na Alan eye ochia odinkan ekochia omampanyin dada Kufuor ansana later on apegyahene ebaye no sorry ye edi anidie sonko ekochia apegyahene etino videos no ye mienu na emom unim se Ghana de sabi asembone ane yeton
na asem no etie na se enye ade a Alan Kojo Kyerematen akohyia eye Kufuor na one ne wa asem na odi ahye nitirim enye saa na asem ne tie na wo ni tuase ekromo ne de wo ye den a ebenya story bi na ye de akyekere wo kon a enye asem ketwa nti case we no sei na eho asem etie now Alan Kojo Kyerematen ya asan akopiem ewo John Dramani Mahama enchen na kwotwetwe nkomo ye president ya yi no agya ye ni besiso on the 7th no wakɔ nchen na kwotwetwe nkomo ni nyina ne se wo sei ono Alan Kojo Kyerematen hu ni se Ghana ne nyina ya ekyekere nti se Ghana ye nyina ekyekere dia na obi wonimdie no betimi dia boa omfa ne party sem entoto nchen na adikro betima ye na ode aboa eye party kro no wo power no wakoye ede aboa na osan so kama Ghana 40 se enye ene da okohia eye Mahama onne wo good relationship wa ano wadin yi pa nti okoya ene na ne CV ene wode kwa akoma no na wakopa adwuma ewo John Dramani Mahama nchen na Mahama ama na adwuma no so aye ede aboa Ghana ne nyina ekyekere minim wade nkyere ohwe akọ hoi se okopa adwuma no so waboa ama Ghana akore eye bone ana se nye bone obetimi wade nkyere na odi aba.
Just ended general elections. It is clear from the results that you put in a lot of effort and you've been handsomely rewarded in that regard. I'm sure many Ghanaians are not aware that although we belong to different political persuasions, that we've had very good fraternal relations for many years, based on mutual respect and shared common values, and indeed also our commitment to serve our nation in humility. I am aware that you've already had the opportunity and privilege of occupying the high office of President of our country, and so you are already keenly aware of the demands of this job. However, as a brother, maybe I should use this opportunity to offer a little bit of advice. The Movement for Change and the Alliance for Revolutionary Change, we campaigned on two fundamental themes. One is the establishment of a government of national unity, and the other one is the prosecution of a national development agenda based on the Great Transformational Plan. Now, in respect of the first, Your Excellency, I'm sure you're all aware that our country has been seriously divided for many years because of partisanship. And unfortunately, this is robbing all of us of the benefits of our democratic credentials, which we've nurtured over so many years. And I think this ought to change. Secondly, this whole winner-takes-all syndrome, which has been associated with partisanship, I think is also not helping our country, because we don't have the benefit of harvesting and mobilizing the collective talent of all Ghanaians. And we should not be divided in that regard by our different political ideologies. I think that also needs to change. Thirdly, also, the lack of continuity of government projects, which again is the result of this partisanship, has also cost our nation quite a bit of money. And I think that also has to change. So I would really like, very respectfully, you to consider this whole development paradigm of how you build a government of national unity, which obviously then means that you bring together people from different political persuasions, big and small, people from other stakeholder groupings, because I think they also represent, indeed, in fact, they represent the majority of the people. So they must have a voice also in government. So that's in respect of the first pillar. The second one is the Great Transformational Plan. Your Excellency, I know that during your first term in office, you had to go to the IMF for support. Now, there's a marginal increase or a stability that comes along with being on an IMF program. So ultimately, you find that the numbers will start looking good. It's obvious. That's part of the whole objective of a stabilization program. But then, at the end of the program, unless there's a program of transformation, then you are likely to slide back into instability, which is what takes you to the IMF in the first place. And so, with the Great Transformational Plan, I very respectfully like to recommend a number of priorities for your consideration, which is stabilizing the macroeconomy. I know that because of our manifesto promises, there's a lot of pressure. Everything is important, but I feel that it's the macroeconomy and the economy as a whole that basically must occupy your highest consideration. Aligned with this, also, I would say a prioritization of the productive sectors of our economy: industry, agriculture, and then tourism. because that speaks to the next most critical agenda for our nation, which is creating employment, particularly for the youth. Now, beyond this, also, I think, is the issue of corruption, which you've spoken about, and which robs us as a country of so much resources that we can channel into development. The next is constitutional reform. Constitutional reform that would enhance the quality of governance in our country. And I'm sure you're already aware of many of those areas that require reform. And last but not the least is the issue of Galamsey, which obviously is an existential threat. It's not just a question of those living in Galamsey communities. This is something that is going to affect all of us as Ghanaians. So, very respectfully, I think that these two development paradigms, I would recommend that you look at them quite seriously. And within the context of a government of national unity, we are prepared to provide all the support that is required for you to be able to implement both the agenda for transformation and also the government of national unity. Your Excellency, in conclusion, I think the greatest legacy you can leave for our country is to help build a peaceful, united, prosperous country which provides equal opportunity to all Ghanaians, irrespective of their political affiliation, ethnic or religious affiliation. We wish you very well together with your team.
Thank you.
And I think on that regard, I'd like to make a presentation of the great transformational plan to you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome you, and to say how much I appreciate this visit, to physically express what you had already done by phone. We spoke on the phone and you extended your congratulations, but I think this follow-up with members of your team is significant, and we appreciate it very much. Like I said, the easy part is over, which is the campaign and the election. The difficult part now begins, and as our traditionalists say, many heads are better than one. And you've properly analyzed the challenge of our democracy, and that is that we cannot harness all the human resource we have to be able to move the country in the direction that we want to go. At any one time, the party that wins and its supporters and functionaries are rowing in one direction, and another part of the country is wishing that that party fails so that they can have the opportunity at the next election to be able to come into government, and to create a situation where all of us, or the majority of us, are rowing in the same direction. Then it means that the canoe in which we are will just continue to be in the same place, or even if it moves forward, it will not move at an optimal speed that guarantees prosperity and dignity for all our people. Since 1992, we have implemented the fourth Republican democracy under the 1992 Constitution. And I believe that it is based on multi-party democracy. And so the strength and health of political parties is at the core of our democracy. And so one would, even though we're opponents, wish that, the parties that are on the other side of the divide are healthy, and that, they also have their democratic systems working, and that they contribute their quota on whichever side of the divide, government or opposition, they contribute their quota to national development. So we can't be happy with the current situation in the NPP, and I hope that they'll quickly recover from this dramatic loss that they have suffered and put their act together. We could see it coming, And I've been in politics long enough to realize that there was something wrong in the MPP. I remember clearly, and some people have played it over again, our friend Mustafa Hamid, who was advising me at the time that if you reach a stage where you cannot be advised, then there's something wrong with life. I think that unfortunately he didn't have that same advice for the leadership of his party, because I mean it got to a point where democracy in the MPP really, was not what we've been used to and what we all knew, and so it was obvious that they had become tone deaf in terms of what was happening in the country. I mean, people's complaints and all that. I don't think that it really penetrated, because this was the easiest election to predict. I mean, they should have seen a loss coming. I saw Vice President Bawumia saying that they are disappointed because they had worked hard enough, and so they thought they were going to win. I mean, it was obvious that they were going to lose this election. That meant that they were not in tune with the reality on the ground. We know that there have been some issues that led to your leaving the party, and there have been other things that have occurred over the years. I think that sometimes disruption is a good thing, because then it allows a new beginning. And so I think that all the strands that belong to that tradition, should find a way of putting the pieces together, reconciling, and seeing how the party can be rebuilt so that it continues to be a viable vehicle for sustaining our democracy.
Intinese who video a training nkofo kase alankwadwo Kyerematen akopie mu Mahama nchen ne ade a omo chese onipa ekobra na ho ahwa no asikyire nyina ani na wohwemu a eye se NDC wo power na ono nso afafranto ewo nimdie bi obetimi di aboa na okopa adwuma eye anase nye obetimi wadwenkyeraba.